Good morning. Welcome back to, I guess this is Planet Doug behind the scenes, but I think this might be a little bit of a different behind the scenes video because I'm going to put it on the main Planet Doug channel. And the reason for that is I started doing live streams, and then the live streams were going on Planet Doug, of course. But then in the live streams, I'm sitting in front of the camera and I start telling long stories, behind the scenes stories. So now that I started doing live streams, the distinction between the main channel and the behind the scenes channel is sort of disappearing and it's becoming the same thing. I sort of like that distinction. I think I've confused people in the past because of this, but on Planet Doug, for example, I might go out into the city of Saigon, where I just was for a while, go out into Saigon and visit a restaurant or a museum or some attraction there, and then I make a video about that experience. But then later on, I might sit down in front of the camera and just tell the story of that whole day, basically looking back at yesterday and telling the story of going to that museum and shooting the video, everything that happened behind the scenes. So they were two very different videos in my mind. One is the actual experience in real time, and then I tell the behind the scenes story of making that video and going to that place. So the behind the scenes version is much more detailed than the original was. So I kind of made them two separate channels. But anyway, live streaming seems to be bringing them back together. So I'm going to sit here. What I want to do today, this morning, it's actually 3:30 in the morning. I'm in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I just flew here from Saigon 2 days ago. I've had 1 day in Malaysia, basically, and I have just been completely unable to sleep. My first night back, nothing. I did not sleep at all. I was just awake for a whole 48-hour cycle or whatever it was. And tonight I got 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep. I think I did. I went to bed really early because I was so tired. And I have so many things to do here. It's really hard to wake up. Oh, it's really hard to get up in the morning without having had any sleep and then go out and get things done. You're just exhausted all the time. So last night I went to bed, I think at like 9 a.m. 9. See, I can't even think straight. I'm so tired. 9 p.m. I went to bed, turned off the lights at 9 p.m. and then I woke up at 1, and then I've been up ever since 1. I just can't get back to sleep. So I guess I slept for 4 hours, and I think I'm lucky to get that. So I was just lying in bed here trying to sleep, and I just couldn't do it. So I thought I might as well just get up, start the day. And I'm starting the day with a cup of instant coffee once more. And I might have done this as a live stream, but in keeping with my ongoing technology nightmares, I tried to do a live stream my very first morning here. I was going to tell the story of flying from Saigon to Kuala Lumpur, and if anybody was watching in real time in the live stream, they could ask me questions about the trip and I could chat with people. So I was all excited about doing that. Tired as I was, I thought I could fight my way through a live stream. But then I couldn't do it. I tried to schedule it, where you go into YouTube and then you set up the live stream in advance and you set a schedule for it and a time and a date, and it sends out notifications. That's how I wanted to do it. And then you can do the live stream later at that scheduled time and people know it's coming. I figured out how to do that when I was in Saigon. So I sat down here to do that, and I called up YouTube on my phone because, of course, my laptop is broken still. And then I went into desktop mode because in order to set up a live stream, you have to do it on a desktop computer or in desktop mode on your phone. You can't do it with the mobile app. And then I ran into trouble because Google always knows when I move. So if I move to a new city, even if I move across town in the same city, or I move countries from Vietnam to Malaysia, Google picks up on it, and then they hit me with all these security measures. You basically have to verify your identity before they'll let you do anything. So when I tried to schedule the live stream, I got this message, I get it all the time, from Google that says, oh, we need to confirm your identity. And then they make you log in to your Google account again with your username and password and security code. And then this time they also asked for what they called a pass key. So then please, now we need your pass key. And I was thinking, I don't even know what a pass key is. I didn't know I had a pass key. I did not know what they were talking about. But then you read the fine print and it said something like, well, your device will ask you for something. Fingerprint, Face ID, PIN, something like that. So I guess whatever mechanism I had installed on my phone in order to lock and unlock my phone, Google has somehow adopted that as their pass key. I don't understand it, but anyway, that appeared to be what was going on. So I was like, oh, okay, I understand what that is, and I hit the OK button. Let's do that. You don't have a choice, as it's part of the confirming your identity process. And then it asked me for my thumbprint, because that's what I have on my phone. I have it set up for a thumbprint to unlock it. So I did that, and then I got a screen that said, processing, please wait. And then it never went away. I just had a completely blank screen, totally white screen at the top, I guess 3 words, processing, please wait. And it just stayed that way. It was frozen. I waited, long time, and nothing happened. So of course it was a dead end. And then I had to go through all the troubleshooting. Right, I was chatting with people online, people that I know, Daryl from Wander Eats, and this time KY, my friend here in Malaysia, and I'm sending out messages to them because I want sympathy for all the troubles I go through. It's like my life is an endless series of problems these days. Ever since I started YouTube, my life has been nothing but trouble. So it's like I need someone to talk to, which is probably why I have these behind the scenes style videos as well. I just need to vent. And then I sent out messages to them. And of course, they're giving me all the usual suggestions. There's also, I was chatting with Sean, fellow Canadian YouTuber, the Frugal Wanderer. He's still in Vietnam. He's actually up in Dalat right now. And I'm on a WhatsApp chat with him and with Daryl and with KY. And I send out this WhatsApp blast saying, I'm trying to do a live stream, but Google won't let me because they're trying to confirm my identity and it's frozen. And now what do I do? And they're giving me all the advice, things I already know, of course. One thing you do, of course, is just close everything, shut everything down, and try again. But I wasn't even able to try again because the original attempt was baked into the system. So even when I went into go into YouTube, go into the live stream to schedule a live stream, and then I got the Google confirm your identity message, I wasn't even able to confirm my identity because as soon as I clicked on confirm my identity, it flipped instantly to the white screen, processing, please wait. So my original attempt was clogging up the system. I couldn't do it a second time because the original attempt was still processing. So shutting down all the windows and apps and reloading them didn't help. So then of course you turn off your phone, you shut down your phone, you reboot your phone, try it all over again, but I got the same result. I wasn't able to fix the problem. And then of course I have 2 phones, so I thought, okay, let's do it on a second phone. And of course it just got locked up as well. And I also have a tablet, a Samsung tablet. And I thought maybe on a tablet it's different. So I went into the tablet, same thing. Now my tablet is locked up. So I've got a tablet and 2 phones. As far as Google is concerned, they were frozen. And I wasn't able to schedule a live stream because my identity confirmation was frozen. And as I joked with Daryl and Sean, I was fantasizing once again. I have this ongoing fantasy of every time I'm fighting with one of these things. I wish I could be doing it in a room at Google where they use me as a test subject. I want a room, like a room of Google engineers behind me, watching me, because they're busy doing all these things, right? They had to program this, they had to set up this system, and then they send it out into the world. But do they have any idea how much we struggle with these things, and how they never work, and how they turn our lives into an ongoing nightmare? I want them to watch me trying to do it. I want them to feel guilty about how much trouble they've made in my life. So I want to sit down in front of them and show them, okay, look, you people at Google, you want me to confirm my identity. I'm trying to do it and it's frozen and it won't work. What is wrong? And then I want to get up from my chair, walk over to the Google engineers, and then just slap them in the face. I just want to go down the whole row one by one and just give them a good slap. Because all of this stuff happens all the time, whether it's GoPro, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's DaVinci Resolve, whether it's Apple and my MacBook. Nothing ever works. And all these people who work at these companies, they drive to work in their fancy cars because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, living the good life at Microsoft or Google or Apple. We see articles all the time about how amazing their lives are, and then they just have such an amazing life and they work all day, but you know, they're making me miserable, and I want somebody to pay for that. You end up feeling so helpless in the modern world because you run into all these dead ends, all these problems, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, so I was not able to do a scheduled live stream. That is why I am pre-recording this behind the scenes video and enjoying my coffee. And you may notice I look different. One of the reasons I'm looking different is I'm filming this on my Olympus camera, and my Olympus camera is a totally different thing from a GoPro. I'm normally filming everything with my GoPro. I didn't even have my Olympus with me in Vietnam because it's a bit of a bulky, heavy thing, my Olympus, and it's something I didn't use very often for long, complicated reasons. So I just left it behind. I just left it here in Malaysia. I didn't bring it to Vietnam. But of course, in my last few days in Vietnam, my GoPro broke down. The rear LCD screen got covered in black and white lines, and you can barely make out anything on the screen anymore. And I had this problem for the last week or so, something like that. So when I came back here to Kuala Lumpur, the very first thing I was going to do was go to the camera store where I bought the GoPro. You may remember this GoPro. It's a GoPro Hero 12. I bought it just a couple of months ago, like before going to Vietnam, maybe 4 months ago. I haven't had it that long, and it was a present for me from a kind Planet Doug subscriber. It was actually a birthday present for me, and I picked up my GoPro Hero 12 from this camera store. That's where I got it from, here in Malaysia. And then I contacted them from Vietnam, and I sent them video of the screen on the back of the GoPro to show them how it broke down. Look, my screen doesn't work anymore. Can you tell me how to fix this, or is this covered by warranty? And they said, yeah, I think that's a warranty issue. So when you come back to Malaysia, bring it in and we'll see what we can do. So that was the very first thing I was going to do. So I went to the camera store yesterday morning, first thing. Well, not quite first thing, because I spent most of the morning trying to confirm my identity with Google. So I went down, I got there at about 11:30, 12 o'clock. I went down to the camera store. And I was so nervous about this because these things don't usually work in my life. Things go wrong generally with these little details of life. And I figured, okay, there's going to be all kinds of problems. I was preparing myself for bad news. But I went in there, and the normal thing happened. This always happens to me, though it only happened 50% this time. You know how you'll have something, a smartphone, a camera, whatever it is, and there's a problem with it. Your car, the engine is making a rattling sound in your car, so you bring it to the mechanic to get him to fix it. But of course, when the mechanic starts up your car, the rattling disappears. So he looks at you and says, oh, there's nothing wrong with your car. There's no rattling sound. So then you get in your car, you drive it home, and while you're driving home, it starts rattling again. So you bring it back to the mechanic, but when the mechanic looks at it, it's not rattling anymore. So I just assumed that was going to happen with this GoPro. And it only happened 50% of the time. Before I went there, I got out my GoPro here in my hotel, and I turned it on several times, and every time it turned on, the rear LCD screen was wiped out. So it's like, okay, it's an obvious problem. I'll be able to show it to them. And then when I got to the camera store, I was a little bit nervous too, because when you're dealing with a camera store, I was talking with one person in particular who knew me. This guy, he was the one who helped me get the GoPro. He remembered me. He knows I'm doing GoPro videos for YouTube. He helped me even take a picture of me posing with my new Hero 12 at his store. We have a connection, and he's the guy that I sent the messages to with the sample problem showing him what's wrong with my GoPro, and he's the one who told me, come into the store, we'll take care of you. But of course, in real life, now you go to that store, that guy won't be there that day, and now you're dealing with people who don't know who you are, and now you have to convince them all over again. Oh, you have to tell them the whole story. The GoPro came from your store, and you got to tell the whole story, and I was talking with this guy, he told, you know, it always works out that way. This time, I showed up, and I think the guy I was dealing with was there, but he was busy with other customers. But anyway, my guy, I think he was there. I didn't really remember what he looked like, but I thought, okay, I think that's the guy. But he was busy, so then I had to sit down at the counter with another guy, a young guy who had no idea what was going on, what the thing was, the GoPro, when I got it, how I got it, what the problem is, etc. So I had to start all over from the beginning and explain the whole story to him all over again. And then I turned on the GoPro, and luckily the screen was just destroyed. So I showed it to him. See, that's the problem. And then he looked at it and he played with it. He went to the menus, he went to the settings, and the problem would not go away no matter what he did. So he was convinced, okay, this customer is not lying and he's not an idiot. There really is a problem. So it was like one hurdle was overcome. But then after a while, well, it turned out that this young guy, he didn't really have the power to process a warranty claim. He didn't know how to do it, or he didn't have the authority to do it. Who knows? So we had to wait for the other guy to finish. And then the main guy was finally ready. Then he came over, and we had to start all over again from the beginning, talk about the whole story. He turned on the GoPro, and now the screen was fine. He had fixed it just by picking it up. So I had sent him messages about how the GoPro doesn't work, the LCD screen is unreadable, this problem, that problem. I finally come in, he turns on the GoPro and is like, look, it's fine, it works. What are you talking about? And it's like, oh, of course. How could it be otherwise, right? So now he's looking at the GoPro, going through all the menus. He's trying to recreate the problem. And now I figured they're going to tell me there's nothing wrong with your GoPro, go away. And then, of course, if I fly back to Vietnam or something, the second I land there, the camera's going to break down again. Of course it's going to. There really is a problem. I dealt with that problem for an entire week. So I know there is a real problem, but he wasn't seeing it. But then he was going through sort of some of the menu systems, scrolling around. And at one point, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. There was a little bit of a, it happened like for a millisecond. And then he went, oh, there it is. So, but then it was like a millisecond, and then it went back to normal again. I'm so jealous of YouTubers in Canada and the US. I see their videos all the time, and they will buy a camera, take it home, use it for a month, decide they don't like it, and they just bring it back to Walmart, wherever, to Amazon, to Best Buy, wherever they bought it, and then just return it and get all their money back. And that just seems like fantasy land to me. I mean, if I could do that, wow, that would be so amazing. It just seems crazy to me now. I grew up in that culture, in that business environment where you can return anything at any time. They never, like at a Walmart or something like that, at a big department store, big box electronics store, you buy something, you bring it home, you don't even have to have a reason. You can just say anything. You could say you don't like it, it's the wrong color. You bring it back, they'll give you your money back. That's just part of the customer service in North America. And I think people, I never did that, but people would take advantage of it, I guess. Like a photographer going and get the GoPro Hero 12, using it for a month, and then deciding they're going to get the Action 4 instead. So they return the GoPro, get their money back, and then buy the Action or whatever they want to do. But here in Malaysia, no. That is, I think maybe in most of Southeast Asia it's the same. I'm not sure. But I know for sure in Malaysia, you buy it, it's yours. You're done. There's no, they tell you that. It's on the receipt. It's stamped everywhere. No refunds, no exchanges, nada. But of course, a warranty, they still have to honor the warranty. That's the law. And then finally, I thought they were going to say, no, we don't see a big problem with your GoPro, so we are not going to process a warranty claim. And I thought they were just going to send me away. But to my surprise, the clerk I was dealing with now, clerk number 3, he went back to the form that they were filling out for the warranty claim, and he started writing down more information. So they were going to process it under a warranty claim. The big question for me, of course, is, well, how long is this going to take? What kind of a process are we talking about? And I was hoping for good news, but preparing for bad. But it was way worse than I expected. I could not believe it, because I asked the guy, okay, you're going to take it and you're going to see whether this defect is covered by warranty. How long do you think it's going to take? And I was hoping for, I'll get back to you later today, or I'll call you later tomorrow or next week, 2 weeks. But you know what he said to me? He says, oh, this sort of warranty claim, 1 to 2 months. 1 to 2 months before I hear whether they're going to be able to do anything for me. But anyway, this story was not supposed to be such a long one. All I was trying to do was explain why I'm filming with my Olympus. And I'm filming with my Olympus because I don't have my GoPro. Someone else has it. I don't know where it is. It could be, I'm sure it's still here. But anyway, apparently what they told me was the reason it takes 2 months is there's no GoPro service center in Malaysia. The distributor, the technical people, the repair people, they're all in Singapore. So my GoPro has to be sent to Singapore, and then the technicians in Singapore, they will go over the camera, try to fix it under warranty, and then they will make a decision whether it can or cannot be fixed. And then they may or may not say, well, give the customer a new one, but they have to authorize it. There's a slim hope it's not going to be that bad, because when I did say to the guy, he knows who I am. I've dealt with this store a lot, and they know all about the fact that I use my GoPro for a YouTube channel. I'm a tourist in the country. They know I'm not a resident. I don't live here. So he's aware of that, and I impressed that on him, that I don't plan on being in Malaysia in 2 months. So how in the world is this going to work? And he could probably tell from my tone of voice and my facial expressions that I was no longer a happy customer. And then he did say, well, look, I'll try to make it faster. I'll try something. I'll make some calls and see what I can do for you. So maybe they'll take pity on me and just take the initiative and say, let's just give the guy a new one. When I went into the camera store, I looked at the shelves to see, did they have any GoPro Hero 12s in stock? And they had a shelf of them sitting there ready to go. So maybe he'll think, we'll cut this guy a break, and they'll just assume it's a warranty replacement. And maybe I'll get a phone call today, and the guy will say, yeah, just come on in, we'll give you a new one. Like, don't worry about it. We know you're leaving the country soon, etc., and maybe they'll cut me a break, but I'm not counting on it. But luckily for me, I have the Olympus, and I have this. So I do have my original GoPro Hero 9 Black. So it's not like Planet Doug has to shut down because I don't have my GoPro Hero 12. Obviously not. In this day and age, I was writing this message to a friend of mine just saying, yeah, there's no excuse for not shooting video these days, because even if I had no Hero 12, no Olympus, no Hero 9, still got a smartphone. So obviously you can always shoot video. There's always some sort of a device that you can use to shoot video. So now the story I was intending to tell. I just wanted to tell the story of flying from Saigon to Malaysia. I booked a flight on AirAsia, and I booked it quite late. I didn't book it way in advance because I didn't know what city I'd be flying out of, and I didn't know what day or anything. So I waited until almost the last minute, but I still got the normal price. It wasn't expensive, less than $100. One-way flight on AirAsia, coach, of course. AirAsia is a low-budget airline here. Their slogan is now everyone can fly, or everybody can fly, implying you don't have to be rich to fly anymore. Even poor people, poor YouTubers can afford to fly on AirAsia. So for the last few years of my life, it's the only airline I've been on. Well, maybe. I can't remember what airline I was on to go to Bangladesh and to go to Myanmar, but it might have been AirAsia as well. I'm just accustomed to using AirAsia to go back and forth from Sumatra, for example. So I booked an AirAsia flight, basic coach class, window seat, and I knew how to get to the airport because I went out there to meet Daryl from Wander Eats. He arrived when I was in Saigon, and I just went out to the airport to meet him when he landed. And one of my reasons for doing that was I thought it'd be fun to just figure out the airport bus. This is bus 109. I took an airport bus to come in from the airport when I landed, but now I wanted to know, how do you get to the airport? So I got that all figured out when I met Daryl. I even shot a video about it, sort of a how to get to the airport in Saigon video. I just haven't had time to edit any of that video yet. So I knew about all of that, and I planned on taking the bus. My flight was at 4:20 in the afternoon, Vietnam time. The flight was about 2 hours, and then it was going to get in, so it would have been 6:25, but there's a 1 hour time difference between Vietnam and Malaysia. I don't know why there is, because they're right, well, I guess Vietnam is a little bit over here. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Malaysia is here. But anyway, Vietnam is in a different time zone by 1 hour. A lot of people get caught by that. But my flight was landing in Kuala Lumpur at 7:25 and leaving at 4:25. And my idea was to go, I go to the airport early for the most part. And people told me that things can be quite slow at the Saigon airport. So you don't want to get caught by that. You got to leave yourself plenty of time. They said you need an hour to get through the immigration line. So count on that. And I didn't know how everything else would work. So I left really early. And that kind of worked out in the end, but it was a little bit of a struggle, because I did leave super early, and I was thinking it was no big deal because my laptop is broken. I'm now editing all my videos on this phone right now. So that's a disadvantage and an advantage because it's so easy to edit video anywhere. So if I left for the airport really late, all I would be doing is sitting in my hotel room editing video until it's time to leave. So I could leave hours earlier and then I'd just be sitting at the airport editing video. It pretty much amounts to the same thing. My hotel room is more comfortable than the airport, but it's not such a big deal. So I decided to leave really early. And you know how this works? That when you leave on time, you leave yourself enough time, everything goes wrong. The airport bus won't show up. The airport bus will be late. Something will go wrong. But if you leave super early, just in case anything goes wrong, then nothing goes wrong, right? So then you end up getting there way too early. You just can't win. So in this case, I don't remember what time I left. I think I left from my hotel room at 11:30 in the morning for a 4:20 flight, and the airport is like 30 minutes away. So I was going to get there very early, but I was just thinking, who knows when the airport bus is going to leave. Maybe it won't leave for an hour. I have to wait for an hour. So I left myself plenty of time. But because I left myself plenty of time, I made the short walk from my hotel to the Saigon bus terminal. It's just across the street from my hotel. I went there and the airport bus 109, was sitting right there. Just like, oh, there it is. And underneath this tree, there was the driver and the conductor. They were just sitting there having a cup of tea or having a cigarette or something. And then I walked into the bus terminal and I went up to the bus 109. It's an orange bus, a short bus, not a full-size city bus, but a short one, run by the Futa company. So that's why it's orange. The Futa bus lines in Vietnam, they're like this bright orange. And so it was a Futa orange bus, and I was sitting there waiting. So I thought, I can just hop right on. But then the driver was sitting there and he says, no, you can't get on the bus yet. We're going to leave in like 2 minutes. But what we have to do, again, this is something interesting about Vietnam. I praised the customer service and the attention to detail, and the systems and organization are just top notch across the board. This was not the Vietnam I remember from the 90s. Everything surprised me. But if they have a system, an organizational flow, they follow it. And the way this works for them is, okay, the bus is sitting there waiting, but no, you can't get on now. They have to pick people up in front of the bus terminal building. So all the buses from this bus station, they're all parked in the parking lot, but when it's time for them to go, they pick people up in front of the building. And I was standing right at the building. Like the airport bus was here, the building was here. It was basically parked right beside the building. So technically and physically, it made no difference. It would sort of be like, here's the bus, and they say, well, no, you can't get on this. We have to go around in a big circle, come back, and then you can get on the bus, but 2 feet over here. But this spot, you can't get on the bus, but 2 feet over, that's where you get on the bus. It was kind of silly, but that was their system, and they follow the system. And they said, no, you can't get on the bus yet. We're leaving in 2 minutes, so what we're going to do is we drive out into the parking lot of the bus station, go in a circle, and then we come right back to this same place, and then you can get on the bus, right? But I couldn't get on the bus then. I'm standing right beside the bus, but they have to go around in a circle, come back, stop in front of me, and then I can get on the bus. Anyway, that's how it worked out. And it cost 15,000 dong to go to the airport. As I said, it's about half an hour away. And this airport bus leaves every 15 minutes. It's an amazing service. And I got on, 15,000 for me. It's about 60 cents US. And then with luggage, it depends how big your bag is. They make a judgment call. If you've got like a normal carry-on bag that everyone uses these days that fits into the carry-on on an airplane, 40 liters, something like that. If you put it on your lap, it's no big deal. They don't charge you for it. But if you have a full-sized suitcase, a big roller, and it has to be put in the back of the van, then you pay for that extra. And my backpack is a pretty big one. And so he just makes a judgment call. It says, okay, for you, $15,000, for your bag, $15,000. So the total was $30,000, $1.20 US to get out to the airport. And again, customer service was amazing. The guy was so helpful. I mean, they had the whole system, like I said, but that is the way, that's sort of the trade-off I've found. I really like systems, I like efficiency, I like logic, I love customer service. I'm a maniac when it comes to customer service. And this bus driver and the conductor, amazing customer service. He speaks English, explained everything to me about the bus. And then there was only me on the bus when it left from the bus terminal. I was the only passenger. And then the bus conductor, not the driver, but they have a driver and a conductor, a ticket taker. And he came back and he was talking to me. And I was just asking him questions because I'm a YouTuber and I like to know information. But yeah, we got to the airport very quickly, 30 minutes, amazing. We picked up 2 other people. That's it. So the whole bus could seat maybe 10, 11, 12 people at the most, but there are only 3 on the bus going to the airport. We got there in about half an hour. And then when the bus pulled into the airport, the side door opened for all the passengers to get out. The baggage was at the back. Like when I got onto the bus, I had my backpack on because the rear doors weren't open. There's plenty of space, plenty of room. And I just walked onto the bus with my backpack on, and I walked to the back of the bus and then took it off and put it down. And then when we arrived, the door opened, passengers got out. But then the conductor, he went to the back of the bus, opened the doors wide, and then he started taking the luggage out. And he actually picked up my backpack. It's heavy, it's big and heavy. And every time I put my backpack into a bus or something, I try to do it myself because I'm always apologizing. So it's heavy. People want to carry it for me. And I said, no, you don't need to. Let me do it because it's heavy and it's awkward. I don't want them to hurt themselves. But this guy, he reached right in there, and he clearly had developed a habit of doing this where he picked up my backpack and he picked it up right side up and then held it up in the air so that I could slip my arms into the shoulder straps. He was helping me put on my backpack. Unbelievable. I mean, that's not I'm sure he's not being paid to do that. Training for the job, and in his job description, it doesn't say that every time some dumb white foreigner shows up with a huge heavy backpack, he has to go pick it up and help this white dude put his backpack on. That's not in his job description, but he takes his job seriously. His job is to get people to the airport, and that's what I'm talking about. His idea of what his job isn't limited to just the bare minimum. He thinks in terms of, okay, our job is to help these people get to the airport and get on their flight. And then if that means helping them with their luggage, like, why not? I would do the same thing. If that was my job, I would always go above and beyond because I enjoy it. I like to make people happy. And if it makes people's day better for me to take their suitcase out of the back and give it to them and get them a trolley if they need one, and if they don't know where to get into the airport, I'll tell them where to go. It makes me happy to help other people and to do a good job. Why not? Otherwise, it's just boring. If you hate your job and you're just looking at the clock and you can't wait for the day to be over, what's the point of that? Do your job well and enjoy it and invest in that job and Just do it well. And that's how it was in Vietnam. And not to give Malaysia a hard time, but man, oh man, what a contrast with the airport buses here. I use the airport buses all the time, normally, to go out to KLIA and then come back in again. I know how the buses work, and I use them all the time. But man, it's nothing like that. Nobody is helping you with your luggage. You have to go down to KL Central. That's where I go. The subway station and train station, KL Central. That's where I go to get the airport bus. And it's down in this underground area. Very uncomfortable, very narrow, very chaotic. And the people running those buses, they're not going above and beyond, I'll tell you that. And they're very rough, very abrupt, and a little bit aggressive in how they run those buses. And nobody is helping you with your bags on that bus. You are you're on your own in more ways than one. So yeah, so I got to the airport early, and what happened from there? I did get a trolley. I put my backpack and my knapsack onto a trolley, and I'm going through. It was kind of weird though, because I couldn't figure out how to get into the airport. I was only aware of the arrivals area. When I met Daryl, I waited outside arrivals, and then when Daryl came out the door, there he is. But I never looked around for departures. When I arrived, came out of arrivals and got on the airport bus and went to District 1. I didn't stop to look around and go, oh, where's departures? I never looked. I just assumed it would be obvious when I went there. And this time the bus stopped at the exact same place it always did. And I got out, and there were there was the airport building. There was the huge arrivals door, the exit from the airport building. And then I'm looking around going, there's no departures. It's like, where do I go? And I had this immediate feeling like, oh boy, I'm at the wrong building. I must be at the wrong terminal. Because I'm used to, you get off the airport bus in any airport in the world, and then you're usually standing in front of departures. There's big doors that says departures, and you go in. And it's usually different from arrivals, right? Could be in a different building, a different level, a different something. And normally when the bus takes you to the airport, they drop you off at departures. And I just assumed that's what would happen, but I got out of the bus and I started walking around, and it's like, I don't know how to get into the building. You can't go in through arrivals, obviously. And then I couldn't find an entrance. I walked up and down the front of the building a couple of times, trundling along with my trolley, and there were no doors to go into. So where am I? And then all these people were seeing me with my luggage, and they thought I had arrived because I was outside of arrivals, and all these people were saying, oh, taxi, sir, do you need a bus? Do you need this? Hotel? Offering me all these services, and I kept saying, no, I'm telling him with sign language, I'm leaving, I'm trying to fly out. And then I looked at these people that sort of asked them again with body language, like, where do I go in? Do you know where I'm supposed to go? And I said, I'm looking for departures. Does anybody know where departures is? And they kept saying, number 4. And they kept pointing me down the whole front of the building. And I walked all the way to the end of the airport, and I never ever saw departures anywhere. And I never saw the number 4 either. But then when I got near somewhere at the end of the building, another guy said, 4, and he pointed, and there was like a tiny door, but it wasn't one of the big automatic doors. It was just a small door that didn't seem to be anything important, but everybody wanted me to go into the airport through that door, so that's what I did. And then all I saw were a series of signs saying departures, second level, and then there was an escalator. An escalator going up. So you had to park your trolley there, and I put on my backpack and I go up, and then I seemed to be in some sort of a observation area. It was just a big open area with big windows. And anyway, I just had a heck of a time finding departures. I was wandering all around that area, and I'd see a sign that go this way and up these stairs and then that way and up these stairs and down this hallway. And I eventually found departures, which is like a vast area like any other departures area in any airport in the world, with all the check-in counters for all the different airlines, and then immigration and security, oversized luggage over here, just your basic departures area. But for some reason, when I was dropped off at the airport, there was no actual entrance into it. So I guess I just missed it entirely. I went in the wrong direction. I walked to the wrong end of the airport building. I don't know what I did. I don't know if it's even possible. So maybe the way this airport was designed, arrivals is on the ground floor, so all the vehicles are there, and then departures is on some sort of an upper floor, but there's no actual vehicle access to departures. So the only way to get to departures is to go into the building at ground level and then go up a series of small stairways. It all seemed very weird to me. I must have missed something. So experts like Daryl, who does this all the time. I'm having breakfast with Daryl this morning, actually. I'll have to ask him, how the heck do you get into the airport in Saigon? Because I was befuddled. So I went in, and I was there really early. As I said, because I'd left super early, everything went like clockwork. I get to the bus station, boom, bus is ready. We go, boom, 30 minutes, we're at the airport. So I leave my hotel at like 11:30, and by 12:15, I'm at the airport. It's like, oh, for Pete's sake, I didn't need to be here this early, right? But again, at the hotel, it was 12 o'clock checkout time anyway. So I could have stayed another half hour, and that's it. So anyway, I don't mind hanging out at airports normally, because again, I have tons of things to do usually. I love people watching and hanging out, editing video on my phone now, things like that. But the one problem with this particular journey was that I had no money left. I wasn't really keeping track of anything. I should have kept better track of things, but I wasn't. And then in the last day or two in Saigon, I looked inside my wallet, and I had very little Vietnamese dong left, almost nothing at all. And it's like, oh, for Pete's sake. I hadn't timed it right. So it looked like I was going to run out, and then I'd have to withdraw more money or change money just to have enough dong left over to buy a cup of coffee at the airport or something like that. And that's kind of silly. You don't want to go through an ATM and withdraw enough money just to buy a cup of coffee, because it's going to be a very expensive cup of coffee, because you got to pay all the bank fees for all the withdrawals and service charges and fees, all the evil things that banks do to you. But yeah, just the way it turned out, the last day or two, I looked in my wallet and I said, man, I have just enough money maybe to buy a cup of coffee, in Saigon or something, but I'm going to have nothing left when I get to the airport, like nothing at all. And so yeah, I showed up at the airport so early. And of course, the normal thing to do at that time would be to go into a little restaurant, have a meal, have a cup of coffee at a nice coffee shop, hang out. But I couldn't because I didn't have any money. And again, I was thinking, if I were a normal person, that wouldn't be a problem, because everyone else in the world, they sail through these airports and they got cards. They got debit cards, they got bank cards, they got Wise cards, they got all kinds of financial instruments. Nobody even uses money anymore, but I don't have any of those things, so I couldn't just go up to them with some sort of a debit card and say, oh, I'll have a cup of coffee, put it on my card. Oh, you don't take that card? I've got 20 others. Which one do you take? I don't have any. So yeah, I wasn't able to do that. Turns out I had just enough dong I could buy a Pepsi. So I found this little place, a little shop that had a cooler, and then the Pepsi was 20,000 dong or 25,000 dong, something like that. So I got myself a cold Pepsi, and then I found an airport seat. And I sat down and I was just editing video for a long time. Because I was there so early, the AirAsia check-in counter wasn't even open. I found that out in advance, actually. Again, amazing customer service in Vietnam. So impressed with that. Because I was trundling around with my trolley and I went over to the AirAsia check-in counters, and there seemed to be a couple of counters that were open. And I thought, ooh, maybe I can get rid of my backpack. I can check in. Because they do have a quirk there where when I got my AirAsia flight, I did everything online, of course. I bought the ticket on my phone, and then you can check in for your flight on your phone. So I checked in, which gives you a boarding pass. So technically, you're done. So like if you're flying out of Kuala Lumpur, you do all that. You buy your flight, you check in for your flight, you get your e-boarding pass, and then when you get to the airport, you go up to one of the automatic machines to get your luggage tag. So it's all, you do everything yourself. You drop off your own luggage, and you don't have to go to a check-in counter anymore. It's all self-service. And in Vietnam, well, AirAsia, they have that system built into their app. So when I booked my flight out of Saigon, I had my e-boarding pass. So I'm all done. I don't have to check in. But they do tell you, in Saigon, you can't use the e-boarding pass. They don't accept it. So even if you have an e-boarding pass, you still have to go to the AirAsia check-in counter, and then they have to print out a boarding pass for you. They don't accept e-boarding passes in Vietnam, which might be, I was thinking that this was connected with how conscientious people were in Vietnam. They do their jobs very well, and they're very attuned to details, systems, procedures, and customer service. And that's kind of a double-edged sword when you get to someplace like an airport, because now they enforce all the rules. So anyway, just to back up, I was saying they have really good customer service because I saw there was one check-in counter open, but I wasn't sure whether it was available for my flight. And then I was standing there looking, and then an AirAsia employee came up to me. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you? What are you trying to figure out?" And I says, well, and I showed her my boarding pass. I'm on the flight to Malaysia this afternoon. I was wondering whether I can check in or not. She says, "No, not yet. That is for that flight." And she says, "Counters 6 to 9, that is for AK523. That is 6 to 9 are the counters for your flight, and they open at 1:20. So come back at 1:20, and we will be open to serve you." I'm like, what is going on? How can the customer service be so good, so professional? So anyway, I knew when they would be open at 1:20. And then I went off wandering. I got myself the Pepsi, and I sat down, and I'm editing video. And then at 1:25 or 1:30, whenever it was, I came back, and then I got in the lineup for checking in. And then the double-edged sword started to appear, because it looked like the AirAsia check-in clerks were being very methodical. Everything had to be done right, which meant they were going slowly. And they were applying all of their procedures and all of their systems right down to the weight of the bags. And it looked like a lot of the people, whoever they were, whoever was flying to Kuala Lumpur on my flight, they were trying to get away with as much luggage as possible. Huge bags of many different varieties, and they were all trying to hit the luggage limits exactly to be able to carry as much as possible. And then the airline clerks were not letting them get away with anything. So if your bag was even close to being over the limit, they would not allow you to check that bag in. So all these people that were checking in for my flight, they were all being turned away, and then they had to take all their suitcases, and now they're all rummaging through them, trying to move items from one suitcase to another to get them all even up so that all of them are like right at the limit. Anyway, it took a long time. The clerks were slow and methodical, explained all the rules to you, asked you all the security questions. Did you pack your bags yourself? Were these bags in your possession the entire time? Do you have any batteries in your checked bag? Do you have this? They were really serious and methodical with every person. So you stood in line for a long time waiting for them to go through the whole system. But very good at their jobs. Everything went fine. My backpack was taken away and I was all ready to go. Then I went to immigration, and I had been warned by people that it could take up to an hour to get through immigration. And I realized it was partially for the same reason, that at immigration they were very methodical and very serious about their jobs. They were not being casual. They were not like just waving people through like, oh, this is stamp, here you go, stamp. No, they were making sure they were doing their job. So it was slow. It was a slow process. But it wasn't that bad for me. I think I got through immigration in about, I was timing it because I was curious, about 35 minutes I stood in line at immigration. And when I got to the front of my line, I noticed one elderly couple in particular got in trouble, an elderly man and woman, and they walked up. I spotted them because I was confused too. They walked up to the next available immigration guy, and the guy was holding his phone out in front of him and was like walking up to the immigration guy. And it turns out on his phone, he had his e-boarding pass. So he was showing the immigration guy his passport and his e-boarding pass, assuming he needed to give them both. And then the immigration officer said, no, we don't take e-boarding passes. And of course, this elderly man, he didn't seem to be that technological. He didn't understand. And then the immigration guy did get a little bit impatient with him and then basically shouted at him, no, like, get out of here. No, we don't take that, and wasn't really taking the time to explain to the poor guy, no, in Vietnam, we do not accept e-boarding passes. You have to go to the counter for your airline, and now you have to officially check in and get a paper. He did not explain this. He just sort of yelled at the guy to go away. And then you saw him turn around looking very lost, and then he went up to his wife, and his wife was concerned. It's like, what's the, there must be a big problem. And then they eventually kind of trundled away. And then I saw they were on my flight. I saw them later on. So I guess they went back to AirAsia and they officially checked in, and they did get their, but they were standing in that immigration line twice because they didn't know that you had to have a paper boarding pass. So there's something to be aware of. And I knew that because Daryl told me about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known either. But I would have checked in anyway because I have a big backpack. So I would have gone to the check-in counter, and it would have worked out for me no matter what. Then came security, and that was also a bit of an adventure for me. I treat these things quite seriously. I like to be organized, and I treat going through security like it's an exam, and I want to pass the exam. Because you're going to go through the metal detector, so you got to get rid of all your metal. And everybody tends to forget. Like, you've got a watch on. You forget to take off your watch. You've got something metal around your neck, a necklace or something. You forget to remove that. Everybody, they leave keys in their pocket, coins. I'd like to be able to go through that thing and it does not beep. And then I'm like, yes, A+, I passed the test. And then all the people who have to go through several times, you see that all the time. They go through, beep, 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 beep. And the guy says, oh, sorry, sir, your belt, you have to remove your belt. And they go back out, take off their belt. They go through again, beep, 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 beep. Oh, your watch, sir. Oh, your coins. They have to go through like 3 or 4 times before they finally get rid of all their metal. I'm very careful not to be that guy. But in this case, I got caught. I had no metal on me. But then I was wondering whether it would happen, to be honest, and I decided to risk it. I just put my knapsack down on the thing to go through the x-ray machine, and then when I went through physically, I did not set off the metal detector, and then I noticed the conveyor belt had stopped, and the women who were looking at the x-ray readout were looking very carefully, and I thought, yeah, I think I'm in trouble here. And but then my bag eventually emerged, and I was going to grab it and walk away, hoping, but no, they yelled at me, no, sir, you have to take your laptop out and send it through separately. And I just kept my laptop in my bag. And there were, as you went through the lineup to go to security, they did have big signs telling you you must remove your laptop and send it through separately. So I saw the sign, but there were a few things wrong with that. One is I see it all the time, like at KLIA here in Malaysia, they have the same sign, tell you you have to remove your laptop separately. There's big signs everywhere telling you that, but nobody does it, and nobody has ever told me to do it. So everybody ignores that rule. So I saw the same sign, the same rule in Saigon, and I figured, well, they post these, but nobody actually cares. So that was the one reason I ignored it. The second reason was that on that sign, it didn't say just laptops. It said everything. The way the instructions read, you have to take every piece of electronics and send it through separately. So you have to get out your laptop. So your laptop goes in a separate container. It goes through. Your smartphone, separate container, goes through. Your wallet, separate container, goes through. Tablet, shoes, everything. So they had a big sign showing everything. And my knapsack was nothing but electronics. It was just jammed with a laptop, tablet, 3 smartphones, 2 GoPros, no, 1 GoPro, 1 Insta3, no, 2 GoPros, 1 Insta360 camera. I mean, and according to the strict rules, I would have to put every one of those items in a separate container. I mean, I'd have to have a row of containers like a train, so many of them going through if I followed all the rules. So when my bag went through, and then they yelled at me and told me, no, you have to take out your laptop. But again, why just the laptop? I mean, according to the rules, they should have told me, well, you've got to remove your laptop and your tablet and your phone and your other phone and your other phone and your GoPro and your other GoPro. And, I mean, everything had to be removed, but they only focused on the laptop. So anyway, I failed the test. They had to yell at me and tell me to do it again. So I went back around, and you had to take your shoes off too. I haven't done that for ages. But yeah, they're very serious about that. And I always find those little containers quite fun to look at. They have the containers where people put the items that are confiscated, because obviously on the plane these days you're not allowed to take scissors, anything metal, any tools, lighters. You can't have a lighter, matches. So I always, and they have these plexiglass boxes with a slit on the top, and then if you have any of those items, you can drop them in there before you go through security. And I'd like to look into those boxes just to see what people leave. And yeah, they're pretty serious in Vietnam, because they were even taking away combs, like plastic combs, in like a little pocket comb. I guess you can turn those into weapons or something, but yeah, they were full of combs. And I had a comb in my knapsack. I had been very careful the night before in Saigon. I always do that. I go through my luggage quite carefully, and I make sure there's nothing in my knapsack that can cause a problem. I always have I've got a little Swiss Army knife I always have with me in my knapsack, but I always make sure to remove it from my knapsack and put it into my checked bag before I go to the airport. So I did that, but I did have a comb, typical pocket comb for my my gorgeous locks of hair, and I thought, oh, are they going to take that away from me? But no, they didn't seem that worried about combs, but the boxes were full of combs that people left behind, and lighters and things like that. So yeah, anyway, I got yelled at. And then after I took the laptop out, I was a little bit nervous about that too, because I have had this experience in the past, and I've heard other people talk about it, and I've seen it, where they ask you to turn the laptop on. because it's not just enough to scan it with the X-ray to prove it is a real laptop. This has happened to me. It happened in Ecuador. I was trying to remember the story, and I'm pretty sure it was in Ecuador. I was there one time. And then, yeah, they ask you to remove the laptop and now please turn it on. And they want to see the window, else the screen light up and log in. Okay, that's a real laptop. But in my case, of course, my MacBook was broken. And if they asked me to turn it on and show them that it works, or that it was a real laptop, it wouldn't turn on. And I thought, oh, they're probably going to take away my MacBook. And I wouldn't have been that worried about it, to be honest, because I was thinking, there's no point getting it repaired anyway. So if they took away my MacBook, I'd be like, well, yeah. Sorry, MacBook, thank you for your long and faithful service, but your life as a YouTuber's editing tool is over. You've come to the end of the line, I'm afraid. I would have sent it off with honor. But no, they did not ask me to turn it on, so I was able to go through. And then it was really nice, though, in KLIA Airport here in Malaysia, the low-budget airlines have a couple of departure gates that are really uncomfortable. They're very small, narrow, crowded. They're stressful. I really don't like going to them. But at the Saigon Airport, they were wide open and spacious, really, really comfortable. So that was nice. And I went all the way to my boarding gate. It was boarding gate number 9. I went there right away, which is what I always do at an airport. As soon as I get in and I get through immigration and customs and security, I just go straight to the boarding gate, just so I know where it is, how far away it is. My flight is leaving from there. I like to case the joint. And then if it's an uncomfortable space, once I figure out where it is, then I'll go back to where it's more open, get a cup of coffee, get something to eat, hang out, things like that. But in this case, so I got all the way to boarding gate number 9, and it was a big, open, empty area with lots of seating, big windows, lots of light, nice bathrooms. Yeah, that's something else in the at KLIA, when you get all the way to your boarding gate, the low budget area anyway, and then if you go through past, they check your tickets and things like that, and then you're in this area with all the passengers, there are no more bathrooms. All the bathrooms are outside that area, which ends up being a little bit of a problem, because I like to wait until the very last minute and then hit the bathroom at the last minute and then go in. But here in Vietnam, or there, I'm not there anymore, there in Vietnam, in Saigon, it was completely different. They had a different design, just so much nicer. Big open departure areas, the departure gates, and the bathrooms are right there. There were shops there, you could buy something. If you were smart enough to have any money left over, you could go get something to eat or something to drink right there. Very, very nice. So I hung out there for quite a long time, taking advantage of still having a working SIM card, sending messages to people, editing video, things like that. And then it started to get close to the boarding time. And I guess because I'd been there for so long already, and yeah, I just figured, why don't I just go get in line for the boarding. It was still a bit too early, but I thought, just get up, stretch my legs for a little while. I've been sitting down for a long time. And I figured I'll just hit the bathroom, take care of that, because I hate being stuck on an airplane, needing to go to the bathroom. So I'm one of those people that if I on a rare occasion when I go to a movie theater, I have to hit the bathroom like just before I sit down, like just before the movie starts, just in case. Same thing with buses, same thing with airplanes. Trains, that's one reason I love trains so much, because you don't have to worry about it. You can go take your seat, and then at some point when the train's moving, you just get up and walk to the bathroom. So trains are better. But anyway, so I did that there in this departure area. I timed it. I knew, I think the boarding time was 3:40. Yeah, 3:40 for 4:20 takeoff. So then I went to the bathroom, and then I went straight up to the boarding area where you stand in line, and nobody else was there. I was the very first person. So I thought, this will be nice for a change. I'll be the first person on the plane after the premium flex people, the people that paid for the premium seating at the front of the plane. They board first, but then for the economy cattle herd like me, I will be the first person on, and then I can just walk straight to my seat and sit down. Because again, this is another situation where I treat it like it's a little bit like a test, an exam that I'm trying to pass. And what I do is I make sure that everything is pre-organized. So I just walk to my seat, sit down. I don't have to stand in the aisle, fumble through my luggage like before you take your seat. Most other people, they take forever to sit down. And one of these low budget airlines takes so long for people to get settled. So you're standing in the aisle waiting and waiting and waiting, and you're looking ahead. It's like, why is it taking so long up there? Sit down, because you can't get past people. There's only room for one person in the aisle. But it turns out all these people, they don't know what their seat number is before they get on the plane. They're wandering down the aisle, and it's like, oh, what's our seat number? And now they're trying to find their boarding pass, and they're getting it out. Where is my seat? Is it here? Is it there? And then they finally get to their seat, and now they're going to put their luggage in the overhead compartment, but they have certain items they want with them in their seat. So now they're standing in the aisle, rummaging through their bags. Oh, I wouldn't mind. I need a pen, and I need this, and I need that, and they're looking for things, and everybody's waiting and waiting for them. So they all fail the test. I pass the test because I don't do any of that. I'm ready to just, as soon as I'm there, I sit down. And my little knapsack, I just put it under the seat in front of me because it's not a big bag, and I don't need overhead compartment space. So I had a window seat, 25F, and I just slid over to, when I finally got there, it took so long. But when I got to my seat, I just slid in, sat down, and my little knapsack just goes under the seat in front of me, and I'm done. So I'm not blocking anybody's way. But most people, the average person on one of these low-budget AirAsia flights, they block people's ways, and they don't really seem to even notice it. It's like they're not even paying attention to all the people trying to get past them, all the people waiting for them. I really enjoyed the flight. Of course, AirAsia low-budget seating, very tiny, tiny seats. I don't even fit into them. My knees are jammed up against the seat in front of me. There's no way to get comfortable. But for a 2-hour flight, it's no big deal. I just settle in and I'm good to go. And I mentioned that I didn't have any money left over, and that extended to the day before. So in fact, I had no money on the day before the flight, let alone going to the airport. So I had not been eating very much. And part of the reason was I didn't feel like taking out more money just for the last day. So I thought, well, you didn't plan very well, so just, again, now you just pay the price and you just don't eat. And on the day before my flight, I met up with 2 other YouTubers, again, the Flow Travelers. I met them twice. I'd met them the day before, and I was just really eager to hear their stories and talk to them again. So I reached out, and we arranged to meet up for a cup of coffee. And we ended up talking from like 9:30 in the morning until 2. Never got up from my seat. We met at a really nice coffee shop in Saigon, and then I ordered a cup of coffee. They had a cup of coffee, and then we talked for hours and hours and hours about YouTube, about editing videos, about shooting videos, camera gear, travels, all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed that. So I had a cup of coffee with them, and then it was about 2 o'clock, I think, we finally stopped talking, and I went back to my hotel, and yeah, that's all I had for the whole day. I had that cup of coffee, nothing else. And then I slept that night in the hotel, and then the next day was the trip out to the airport, and I had this can of Pepsi at the airport, and that's all I'd had. And I'd been sick to my stomach, which is another reason I didn't eat, because I've been really sick, and I didn't want to be sick on the plane, so I just stopped eating. I do that all the time. But I was looking forward to my Uncle Ben's chicken rice, because on AirAsia, if you get the value pack, you pay extra. You get one checked bag for 20 kilograms. You can choose your seat. You get some kind of insurance, and you get a meal. It's all in one price. I tend to get that, and then I always end up with their standard meal, which is their Uncle Ben's chicken rice. And that was going to be my only food for, yeah, the only food I'd had was I met up with the Flow Travelers in the morning. After I did a live stream, we met at a banh mi restaurant for the first time. And I had a banh mi in the morning. That was on the day before the flight. And that was the last food I had. I had banh mi that day in the morning. I had nothing else to eat for the rest of the day because I could feel my stomach wasn't in good shape. So by the time I had the Uncle Ben's chicken rice on the plane, man, I hadn't eaten for at least 2 full days. The morning, yeah, anyways, a long time I had not eaten, and I was starting to feel hungry. So when the chicken rice came, I really enjoyed that. And I was kind of lucky because if I'm feeling sick and then I have something to eat, it will kickstart the process, and then I'm in trouble. But I had no trouble at all on the plane, even though I'm actually still sick now. So technically, I should not have eaten on the plane either, because I usually just fast until I'm not sick anymore. But anyway, yeah, amazing meal. I enjoyed that so much. It was just like every spoon of rice. I just kept chewing it and chewing it and chewing it and chewing it, just getting every particle of nutrition out of it. It wasn't like shoveling it in. It was like every spoonful. I just, like a cow, you know, masticating and masticating. And yeah, it was really, really good. And it was a late afternoon flight just as the sun was setting, and I had the window seat on the right-hand side looking out at the sunset. Gorgeous, absolutely stunning as we were going over the Mekong Delta. And when I flew into Vietnam, the Mekong Delta was brown because it was before the rainy season, before the planting season. Everything was brown. This time, flying out, everything was turning green because the new rice crop was growing. It was just beautiful, and seeing all the rivers going through the Mekong Delta. And then as we approached Malaysia, ran into clouds, but they were astonishingly beautiful clouds. Huge towers of clouds starting way below the plane. Like, it wasn't like flat clouds off to the horizon. It was like a giant cloud, like a mountain almost, coming up from below the plane and then rising above it. These columns of clouds, and then the setting sun was coming through those clouds. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I wasn't filming any of this, unfortunately. I decided not to take video of the journey because I have so much video to edit already. And I could have taken video of that really beautiful area with the mountain clouds and the sunset with my phone, but I had also planned ahead to switch out my SIM card. So I had my SIM card for Vietnam, but I still had my SIM card from Malaysia, which I hoped was still valid. So while I was sitting on the plane, after I had my Uncle Ben's chicken rice, I got out my phone and I got my little SIM card tool and popped open the tray. And I was switching out the SIM cards as we were going through that beautiful clouds and sunset time. And I was, oh, I got to take video of this. And my phone is shut down right now because I was transferring the SIM card. So I never got any video of that. Yeah, landed at, well, the plane was, I didn't finish that story. Yeah. The whole story I was building up to. I forgot about that. I went to the bathroom and then I was first in line, but then the plane was late. So I was standing there first in line for a long time, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And it was getting close to the time. We were supposed to board at 3:40, and I was in line right at 3:40 the first person in line, but then we came up to 4 o'clock, then 4:05, 4:10, and 4:20 we were supposed to be taking off at 4:20, but we weren't even beginning the boarding process, so the plane was delayed. And I ended up waiting there for so long, I needed to go to the bathroom again. You know, that happens in air conditioning. It was really cold and cold air blowing. It kind of, I guess it kicks my kidneys into high gear, and suddenly I had to go to the bathroom again. So even though I claimed the first spot in line in time for boarding at 3:40, we still weren't even boarding by 4:20. So I had no choice but to leave my spot, and I went into the bathroom. I used the bathroom again, and I wasn't in there very long, but anyway, I came out of the bathroom, boom, everybody else was now in line, and I was, as always, at the very back of the line. I was the very last person again. I did all that work, all that effort to be first, and then because the flight was delayed, I ended up last again. So when I got on the plane, it took a long time because of all the people I talked about taking so long to get into their seats. I always think the airline staff must get so frustrated with customers. They're very good. AirAsia staff are excellent. Any airline crew anywhere in Asia is good. The customer service skills are on another level. They tend to be young, good-looking people, slim, attractive people, and smiling. And that's why they hire them, right? They get hired because they're young, slim, attractive, good-looking, with nice features, smiling all the time, very friendly. That's why they hire them. But I wonder how in the world they can continue to be so friendly during these flights, because I'd get a little bit annoyed with all of the guests on the AirAsia flight. It's like, people, get organized before you get on the plane. You can't just stand there rummaging through your suitcase, blocking. People are waiting and waiting for you. Come on, let's move it, right? I don't know how they put up with human beings. But yeah, all the way through the whole flight, the AirAsia staff, smiling, friendly. Yeah, really, really good service. So yeah, we landed at Kuala Lumpur, and that was no problem. And the airport was empty. I couldn't believe it. Went into immigration, a vast immigration complex with many, many immigration officers, many lines. They're very well organized for that in Kuala Lumpur at this airport. But when I walked into the immigration area with other people from my flight, we were the only people there. Like, we were the first person walking into the room, into this immigration warehouse, and there was nobody in front of us, not even one person. So all of us were able just to pick a line and walk right up to the very front of the line. And then, yeah, went straight up to the immigration guy. And my immigration guy was singing. He was like singing to himself. And of course I filled out the Malaysia arrival card in advance. They have a new system now where you have to fill it out online. You don't write a paper arrival card in Malaysia. You have to do it in advance online, and that gets connected to your passport number and your immigration record. So they already know who you are. As soon as they scan your passport, everything pops up, and you've filled everything out in advance. And this guy was just singing to himself. He seemed so happy, very friendly, la 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 la. And he took my passport, and then you have to get your fingerprints taken in Malaysia as well. They have that system. And he didn't ask me any questions. Though when I walked into the immigration area, like getting off my plane, there were big signs. I saw many big signs saying you must present your flight out of the country, that you must have a flight out of the country and show it to immigration. So I thought, ooh, they're really getting serious, because these were new signs. I'd never seen them before. And I thought they were going to ask me for proof of onward travel. But no, they didn't. He just went through it, and out of the corner of my eye, I wasn't really paying attention, I thought I saw him stamp the passport. And I normally, again, I have this habit of, as soon as I leave immigration and they stamp my passport, I look to see what they stamped and I take a picture of it. I'm usually very methodical about that because I want to make sure. You're supposed to, the standard is to get 90 days in Malaysia. You don't get a visa here. You don't get a visa in advance. You don't have to pay anything. You get what they call a social visit pass, which is essentially an entry stamp in your passport, and it's good for 90 days. That's what you normally get. But if I know what I applied for or what I normally get after I go through immigration, I stop and look and see, okay, did they give me 90 days or did they give me 30 days, 60 days? I like to check just to make sure before I leave the airport, before I leave that area. But I didn't do that this time for whatever reason. I think I know why. I'll explain why in a minute, but I didn't do that. And then much later on, it occurred to me, I had a minute where, oh, I better check my passport. I forgot to do that. And I opened up my passport and there was no stamp. There was no immigration stamp, nothing. I went to the, you know, how your passport pages fill up, and then there's my exit stamp from Vietnam, and I thought on the next page, that's going to be my immigration social visit pass, and it was a blank page. There was nothing there. So I looked at the previous page, nothing, the two previous. I thought, oh man, the guy was singing, and maybe he just wasn't doing his job. He wasn't paying attention, and he let me into the country, but he forgot to stamp my passport. And I thought, oh no, 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 because I was far away from the airport. I thought I'm gonna have to go back now. I'm gonna have to turn around, go back to the airport, find someone who can fix this problem for me. Because yeah, I couldn't find the immigration stamp. And then I thought, well, let's make absolutely sure. And I went all the way to the first page of my passport and just went through the whole passport page by page very, very carefully. And in one of the first pages of my passport, I found the Malaysian immigration stamp. Which, it's an interesting story because I have a bit of a pet peeve with modern immigration, because they now give you stickers quite often. They don't even have a stamp, they have a sticker, and their stickers are huge. So an entire page of your passport will be used up with one immigration sticker. You get one visa per page of your passport. So if you have a 24-page passport, fills up like that. And a Canadian passport is hundreds of dollars to get a new one. It's really expensive. It takes a long time to do. So you want to maximize the life of your passport. And then when I see these immigration officers take an entire blank page and put one stamp right in the middle of that page, use up the whole page, I'm like so annoyed with them. I was like, can't you just put it in the corner? Like, just make it take up as little room as possible. But they just stamp wherever. And my passport was filling up really fast. It's a 10-year passport, but it's filling up, so I'm going to have to get a new one long before the 10 years are over. So this really annoys me. But this guy in Malaysia, instead of stamping the next available page, he went as far back in my passport as he could on a page that was practically full, but he found a little corner in the bottom that was still empty, and he put the Malaysian stamp right there on that page, way back at the beginning, like probably from 3 years ago, the stamp's on that page. And I was like, you freaked me out because I didn't think there was a stamp. So at first you freaked me out, dude. I really wish you hadn't done that. But at the same time, you really did me a favor because he's saving me space in my passport. I really enjoyed that. But now, of course, whenever I leave Malaysia, the next immigration officer, he's going to flip to the end and there's not going to be anything there. And he's going to have to go looking. But I think immigration officers, they know what the stamp looks like for their country. They don't have to look that hard. They can just flip through really quickly and then they'll spot it instantly. It's like, for me to find it was like, where's Waldo? Because I don't know what the Malaysian immigration stamp looks like. It's not second nature. But to a Malaysian immigration officer, it'll just jump out at him. He just has to open the page. He'll see it right away because he looks at it hundreds of times a day, right? So anyway, I panicked when I thought I didn't even get a stamp. But luckily it was in there, but way back in my passport. So the story continues. I then went into customs, got my backpack. That was no problem. I then had a little bit of an adventure from that point because my friend and Planet Doug subscriber, KY, he offered to come pick me up at the airport. And I took him up on that offer and said, oh yeah, that'll be great. It'd be nice to have a friendly face waiting for me at the airport. I don't have to mess around with airport buses, things like that. So yeah, that'll be cool. But what I had forgotten, and I think maybe he had forgotten or didn't realize, is that I'm landing without internet because I have a SIM card for Malaysia, but it's not going to be activated. I left Malaysia 3 months ago, and all the credit I had, all the data, it would have expired long ago. So when I land, I'm not going to be able to contact him. So he's going to be at the airport to meet me, but where is he? Where are we going to meet? We need to communicate in order to do this. And I thought, oh, I forgot about that. But of course, well, not of course, but luckily the airport has Wi-Fi, free public Wi-Fi. And I don't usually like to connect to those. They seem dangerous to me. But anyway, I had no choice, so I connected to the airport Wi-Fi, and there was a message from KY already saying something about where he was, or saying, oh, let me know when you land, sort of thing. So then I wrote back to him, told him what was going on. I'm here, I'm getting my bag, and we're making arrangements where to meet. And then he told me where he was going to be, so I walked through the airport. And the way that airport is organized, there's the airport building itself, the terminal area, but it exits into a huge shopping mall. And you walk through this long shopping mall and you come out the other side, and that's the actual exit and entrance to the airport. So when you first arrive, you actually enter a shopping mall, which is part of the airport, but really it's just a big shopping complex. And then you go through the shopping complex and then you get into the airport. So I went all the way through the airport, all the way through the shopping mall. Then I'm exiting the airport, and I'm looking at KY's message, and it didn't make any sense to me because he said, I'm on level 3. He was telling me, go out level 3, door number 2, and I'll be waiting for you. And I just looked at that message and thought, okay, that's what I'll do. And then I went all the way through, but departures was on level 2. And he said he's on level 3. So I thought, oh, now what do I do? Because I didn't know where level 3 was. I didn't see any way to get up there. It's like, is there a level 3? Because my whole life, I've gone out of that, in and out of that airport a lot. It's like, okay, this is the departures area. Not, I mean, the arrivals area. You depart from arrivals. This is the arrivals exit. This is the arrivals area I've always used. I'm not aware of another level that I can go to. So now I'm looking for stairs. I'm looking, trying to find, how do I get up to level 3? And I'm thinking, oh, maybe KY made a mistake. Maybe he meant level 2. So I was going to send him a message. But of course, I'm now in the shopping mall. I left the airport behind, so I don't have Wi-Fi anymore. So it's like, oh, for Pete's sake. Now I'm trying to get in touch with KY. He's trying to find me. I'm trying to find him, but we can't communicate because I have no access to the internet. So I turned around and I walked all the way back to the airport, all the way through the shopping mall. Even at the beginning of the airport, I still didn't have Wi-Fi. I got to get deep into the airport. I'm finally inside the airport. I have access to their free Wi-Fi again. And then I can send KY a message and say, like, you said you're on level 3, door number 2, but I'm sorry, but I can't find level 3. Did you mean level 2? And now we're sending messages back and forth, trying to get this figured out. And then as it turned out, he did just mistype or misspoke. He meant level 2, because then he did say to me, near the Family Mart. And then he called me because KY is like a normal person. He makes phone calls, and I don't. I don't call people on the phone. I don't like talking to people on the phone. I can't understand them. I can't hear what they're saying. We talk over each other. There's interference. Like, no, I didn't. I didn't hear it. What? And then I end up wanting to just smash the phone on the ground. I just can't take it. I like to do things very slowly and methodically and take my time. But as soon as you're talking on the phone, it's all happening in real time. And yeah, I just find it, I end up getting flustered, and I can't understand people. But anyway, I send KY a message. Did you mean this? And then my phone starts ringing. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I'm like, luckily, I understood a few things that he said, something about a family mart. And I think he said, oh, that's actually level 2, door 2. And anyway, I went all the way back through the airport, all the way back through the shopping mall, and KY was there. So it all did work out in the end. But yeah, if you're arranging to meet someone at the airport, yeah, you have to think about, well, okay, once you're there, how are you going to communicate? And again, had I taken the time, what I could have done is taken my Malaysian SIM card and added data to it, because I know how to do this now. At least I used to know how to do it, because I have a Malaysian eWallet, touch and go eWallet, and I can use the touch and go eWallet to pay for credit on my smartphone SIM card thing. But it's one of those things that you really have to stop and think it through. Like, you have to remember how to do it. And of course, you have to know all of your passwords and your usernames and your phone numbers, because you have to go into your SIM card thing, and you have to sign in, and then you have to figure out what data plan you want to buy, how much it's going to cost, and then you've got to figure out how to pay for it. How do you pay using the e-wallet? And then you've got to enter the security codes and answer the security question, and they send you an email, and you got to get the code. You got to sit down and have a cup of coffee and relax. And I wasn't prepared to do it in the airport. And again, mainly because I knew I was meeting KY, and I knew he was out there waiting for me. So I didn't do my normal methodical go through the airport slowly. I was moving faster than I normally do. And because I knew KY was waiting, I didn't take the time to sit down at the airport and try to remember, okay, how do I do the touch and go e-wallet, and answer all the questions. So I could have done that, but then KY would have been waiting for me all that time while I was busy doing it. And then I just sort of forgot that, okay, I wouldn't be able to communicate with him once I left the interior of the airport. And then off we went. It was while we were driving into Kuala Lumpur, we stopped to get gas, and while KY was filling up the tank, that's when I remembered, oh, I haven't checked that's another reason I didn't check my passport at immigration like the way I normally do, because I was thinking about KY waiting for me. So I was kind of moving faster than I normally would. But then at the airport, at the gas station, I thought, oh yeah, I better check my passport. I want to see how many days they gave me, because maybe they only gave me 48 hours. You just don't know. So I got out my passport, and I'm looking for the immigration stamp, and it wasn't there. And I thought, oh man, oh man, oh man, this is not going to turn into a good evening. But then I went back and back and back and back and back, and then I finally found it. KY drove me to my hotel. I'm back at the J Hotel Masjid, India. That's one of its many names. It seems to have very different names on the sign outside, on Agoda, on Google Maps. So I don't really know what the official name is. I've stayed here quite often because it's a rare hotel in that it has single rooms. And because it's a single room, the price comes down a little bit. So I've always found this hotel to be the best value in town. The backpacker hostels in Kuala Lumpur are pretty substandard. They're very unpleasant places for the most part. And I guess that kind of brings me to the last part of my story. I've already told the whole story about the GoPro, everything that happened the next day, but my arrival was not very pleasant because of the contrast with Vietnam. The hotels in Vietnam were such better value. Like, there's absolutely no comparison. Every place I stayed in Vietnam on this trip was wonderful. Big rooms, spacious rooms, customer service just on a high level, and the price was really good. So now that I was returning to Malaysia right away, even when I was looking for a place to stay, checking Agoda and Trip.com and Traveloka and all these, and Booking.com, right away I noticed, oh yeah, I forgot Malaysia's more expensive. Hotels in particular are much more expensive here, and they have so many more fees and taxes and the tourism tax. It's just an unpleasant experience to deal with the hotels here. And you don't get much for your money. So this room, when I got into this room, my heart kind of sank because I was aware of paying more for this room than anything I paid for in Vietnam. And yet all of my rooms in Vietnam were 3 times better than this room. I walked into this one and I kind of went, this is not great. I just had Vietnam hotels in my brain, and this was a major step down in comfort and quality, and yet a big step up in price. So yeah, I've never been able to really track down reasonable low budget accommodation in Malaysia. It's always been a bit of a struggle from that point of view. And then the other side of it again was customer service. I got so used to the customer service in Vietnam, and I walked into the lobby of this hotel, and I mean, I don't want to say anything that terrible about it because they just did their job, and there was nothing. The young woman who checked me in, perfectly nice person, perfectly friendly, but she had 0 customer service skills. She was just sitting at a desk. She was on her phone and then barely paid any attention to me. And then I walk in, and I guess I was a little bit disappointed because I've stayed here many times and I was looking forward to the familiarity. It's nice to go back to a familiar place, coming home again. And then I know the staff that was here before. The staff here are all from Sri Lanka. They're all Sri Lankan workers from Sri Lanka. This whole hotel, all the staff here, they are not born in Malaysia. And I knew the staff from before, and I was kind of looking forward to coming through the door and recognizing people and going, hey, hey, and how was your trip to Vietnam? Nice, okay. And that would smooth out the arrival and make it warm and friendly. But it was this young woman who was brand new. She was never at the front desk before, so I didn't get the warm welcome that I was hoping for. And then she was on the phone when I came in, but I think she was on FaceTime or something. So at first I didn't see the phone. She said something, and I thought she was talking to me, so I replied to her, but her eye line was looking down, and then, sorry. I interrupted her because she was talking to somebody else on FaceTime or something, on a video chat, and I didn't realize she was doing that. I thought she was talking to me. And then it was hard to even notice when she stopped her conversation on her phone and switched to me because she never ever gave me her attention. Never looked at me, never really paid any attention. She just kept looking down the whole time, and then she said something, and I thought she was still on the phone, and then she said it again, and then again, and it's like, oh, you're talking to me now. Like, you might want to look at me while you're talking to me. And then she said something, and I couldn't hear her, so I'm like, excuse me, pardon? She said it again. I couldn't hear what she said, and I had to lean way over, and I apologized to her because I'm a moron, and I guess I'm Canadian. We apologize all the time. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't hear what you're saying. And then she said it again, and I'm like, I didn't get that. I'm really, really sorry. And I'm okay. I'm getting older, and I'm sure my hearing is starting to fade, but I'm not a deaf old man yet. had she been speaking at a normal level, had she been looking at me, I could have figured it out, but she was just mumbling, looking down. Still didn't get it, sorry. And I finally figured out, she said something about confirmation number or reservation ID. What was your ID number? Reservation ID? And no one has ever asked for that before. So I was like, oh, what do you want? You want my reservation ID? I don't know what that is. And, I keep thinking, I mean, I'd already given her my passport. And at these hotels in Malaysia, I'm always confused because they don't seem to have any access to the online systems. I booked through Agoda. This has happened at this hotel in the past every time, other hotels in Malaysia. It's like they don't seem able to access Agoda or Booking or Traveloka on their systems. It's like they ask me for everything, and I'm thinking, well, you've got my passport, you've got my name, it's there, right? Like, aren't you monitoring Agoda? You know how many people booked a room, and this was like quite late at night, so I think I got there 10 or 10:30 or something like that. If I were working at the front desk, I would have been monitoring. I know how many people are arriving today, and I would know, oh, there's this Canadian arriving, he's booked a room for 7 nights, and he's not here yet. Oh, it's 10 o'clock, and he's not even here yet. And I'd be looking for this guy, but apparently they don't even pay attention. And then, what I thought she could just take my name from my passport and look on her computer. Oh, Mr. Everyone calls me Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas, you're Mr. Douglas. Okay, welcome, Mr. But no, none of that. It was just like mumbling ID. Ref ID, confirmation ID, and I'm like, and then another problem was my smartphone, the one with my all of my Agoda reservation, my main phone, the battery was dying, so it had switched into battery saving mode. Because this has been a long day. I'd woken up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and this was now 10 o'clock at night, so the battery was about to die. And when it goes into power saving mode, the screen goes dark, and it's really hard to read. I had like 5% battery left, and now this woman was asking me for my Agoda reservation ID number, and I'm like, I assume I have one of those. I've never been asked for one before, so now I'm putting on my glasses and I've got the phone. I can't hardly see it because it's so dim, right? And then I'm calling up. I got to go into my email account. I got to do this. I have to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi to get access. Open that up, download it, look, and I'm pinching in, and I'm like, I think, I mean, there's a whole bunch of numbers connected with your Agoda reservation, and up in the top left corner there was some sort of not like a number. I think maybe is that my reservation ID, and I'm showing it to her, and she was like, don't worry about it. Now she went to her computer and was looking. I said, well, couldn't you have done that from the beginning? Anyway, and then she went through the whole checking me in procedure with like no attention, never looking at me, never engaging with me, no sense of welcome, like nothing at all. And it was such a contrast with everything that happened in Vietnam. I found it very displeasing. And then, of course, came the tourist tax. Now we got to go through the whole tourist tax rigmarole. Like, have you paid the tax? Do you know? Well, you need to pay the tax now. Please give me 70 ringgit, because it's 10 ringgit per night. And then I have to say, no, I've already paid the tourism tax. And she's, oh, can you give me the receipt? And I'm like, well, they give me a receipt, but it's on my phone. And then you have to connect with her on WhatsApp, add her to your WhatsApp account so that you can send her a copy of the, and I say, can't you get that from Agoda? You've got all, anyway, it's a whole to-do. And then by the time all of this was done, and then I finally got my key card, and I came up here to my room, and I came in. I can barely turn around in this little closet. Things are broken in this room. Things are broken in the bathroom. It kind of stinks in here. And in the other rooms I've stayed in here, they had a piece of furniture over there, like a vanity, and then a plastic chair. My camera is sitting on my plastic chair right now. I've got the plastic chair sitting on my bed. I've got my feet slid underneath the plastic chair. And then there's a tiny little cupboard thing that I put beside the bed for my my coffee table. But this room didn't have the vanity table, so there's like no furniture in here, and there's nowhere to put anything. All of my stuff is lying on the floor. And when you go into the bathroom here, it's one of those bathrooms where even to sit down on the toilet, there's not enough room, because it's like your knees and your shoulders are hitting the sink, because the sink is right here, but here's the toilet and there's the wall. And then the door jams against the toilet. The whole thing is just awkward and poorly designed. But this is the best value you can get in Kuala Lumpur. And compared to Vietnam, I'm slumming it. And as soon as I arrived that night, my first thought was, I gotta get out of here. I'm not gonna stay here. I've tasted the good life in Vietnam, so I'm not going to settle in. So what I wanted to do was, GoPro fixed, MacBook fixed, back to the airport, back to Vietnam, for the simple reason that the hotels are just such better value. Yeah, and so I was thinking, man, I really want to get things done fast here, get things done fast, and then get out again. But then, of course, as soon as I went to GoPro, it was like, in Malaysia, it's like, oh, it'll take 2 months for us to consider your warranty, sir. And I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake, slow. Anyway. I think that is the end of my arrival story. KY came to the hotel with me. He was helping me carry my bags up to the room. And then we went out for dinner. We drove over to Kampong Baru, and we had a meal, went to a seafood tom yum place, classic sort of Malaysian eatery, very old outdoors seating, very, very interesting place. Had a nice chicken and rice kind of deal. I totally forgot I had chicken and rice for lunch. And then when I went out with KY, because the whole tom yum, hot, sour, spicy soup thing, considering I still have a really upset stomach, it was like, yeah, I can't eat any of that. that would be a killer thing. So I looked for something else on the menu, and they just had kind of a chickeny, ricey thing, and chicken with veggies, and then you get white rice to go with it. But it was really spicy, surprisingly hot and spicy. So yeah, I don't know if that kept the illness going, because my whole GoPro day, and then yesterday afternoon and evening, I was just sick as a dog. So I'm not doing well. The flight worked out fine. Getting from Vietnam to Malaysia was really a smooth trip, but all the little things along the way, and then being so sick, just, yeah, it really was exhausting, and I haven't been able to sleep. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty rough right now. Got too many things. I think I'm just thinking too much. I got so many things I feel like I have to do or think about doing that I'm just not able to sleep. Can't get to sleep. So instead, I'm telling my stories here. Luckily for Daryl, because I'm meeting Daryl in... my watch is still on Vietnam time, so it's an hour behind. Luckily, my phone's updated automatically. So it's 20 after 7. I'm meeting Daryl in 1 hour exactly. He's coming to pick me up. And one of the reasons he's picking me up is because when I left to go to Vietnam, I had a bag of kind of extra gear. And in that gear was a Bluetooth keyboard, a Logitech K380. Beautiful little Bluetooth battery-operated keyboard. And I was just going to get rid of it or sell it or something, but I never got around to doing that. So I had a few little electronic items, an extra GoPro that isn't working anymore, and I put it all in this bag, and Daryl was keeping it for me. And now that I have no MacBook anymore, I don't have a keyboard, so I thought, my Logitech. So I asked Daryl if I could come to his office and get this bag from him, and then I can get my keyboard. So we arranged to meet for breakfast. Daryl's going to drive by my hotel. I hop in the car. As I explained to Daryl, I'm 85% Canine. I love to just get in a car. I love to drive. That's better, obviously, but I'll be a passenger. That's cool too. and I'm just like a dog sitting in the passenger seat, you know, sticking my head out the window. I just love driving anywhere with anybody, going anywhere, right? So he's going to come pick me up in an hour. We're going to go have breakfast, and then I go to his office, get my bag of electronics, and then, yeah, I'm back running errands again. With this Olympus camera, the battery door is broken, and it's a real pain in the butt. So I tried to get it fixed last time when I brought my camera in. Again, getting back to customer service, I brought my camera into Olympus, and one of the things I asked them to fix was the battery door, and they were going to fix something else in the camera too. And I dropped off the camera, and then a month and a half later, I'm finally going back there. It's like, what's going on with my camera? And it had just been sitting on the shelf the whole time. They never called me, they never contacted me. And because I guess one guy looked at my camera, he couldn't reproduce. It was one of these intermittent problems, and they couldn't reproduce it, so they couldn't fix it because they didn't know what was wrong with it, even though I'd explained everything to them in detail. But I guess nobody wrote it down. And then they just put it on the shelf and never contacted me. So then when I finally picked up the camera, they handed it back to me and said, well, we couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, so we didn't do anything. And I was looking at the camera, and I was like, well, the battery door is still broken. So, well, we didn't fix that because we couldn't find the other problem. We didn't think you wanted that fixed. I'm like, well, of course I wanted it. Anyway, so now I have to go back. I'm bringing it back to Olympus today, and this time I'm going to ask them, like, can you fix the battery door, please? They told me they could do it. The last time, they just didn't bother to do it. And they never called me to ask me to confirm, like, do you want this done? And I was just, yeah, I want that done. Why do you think I brought it to you? It's on the work order. Anyway, I have to go back to Olympus. Luckily, the Olympus office is right at Daryl's work office. So when I go there to pick up my keyboard, I can just pop next door to Olympus, and hopefully it's not going to take them a month and a half to do it this time. Yeah, I guess that's almost it for now. A couple of good things about being back in Malaysia. eWallet. Love using my touch and go eWallet, so that's great. And I have my touch and go card, getting in and out of the MRT and whatever else you can use the card for. That's kind of cool. One funny thing, this is just one last weird Planet Doug story. Just before I left from Malaysia, I met up with Daryl and another YouTuber, Expat Pete. We met at a Starbucks. I had borrowed Daryl's DJI Pocket 3 camera for a couple of days. I wanted to try out that camera, thinking, yeah, maybe in the future it'd be really nice to have one of these cameras. So I wanted to try it out, and I had to return it to Daryl, and we arranged to meet at this Starbucks so I could give the camera back to him. And I got there really early, as I always do. So I'm at Starbucks, and I was in a really good mood for some reason. I was just feeling good. And I'm in Starbucks, and then the clerk started talking to me about the Starbucks card. And rather than just paying for the coffee with Touch and Go, he says, oh, why don't you get our Starbucks? And he was talking me into the deal. You know, they always have a deal. Get your Starbucks card. You get a 10 ringgit discount. You get this, you get that. It'll save you tons of money. If you pay today using Touch and Go, it costs this much. But if you get the card, it only costs 50%. And you get... Anyway, normally, like everybody, I'm like, no thank you, no thank you. I got enough cards in my life. I don't need any more technology hassles. But for whatever reason, I was like, oh yeah, sure, give me one of those cards. And he wanted to know how much to put on the card, because I got to put cash on the card. So I'm going through my wallet, and it's like, whatever. Oh yeah, put 100 ringgit on that card, thinking, oh, I'm going to be in Malaysia for another week or 2 weeks or whatever, and I can use my brand new Starbucks card. So I got the Starbucks card, I put money on it, and then completely forgot about it. Just slipped my mind. So I'm in Malaysia all this time, and then I go to Vietnam, and when I arrive in Vietnam, I'm cleaning out my wallet because I don't need all my Malaysia cards. I'm going to put them away in a safe place for later, and I'm emptying my wallet. And I said, what the heck is, what is this? Starbucks card. It's like, for Pete's sake. They talked me into getting the Starbucks card because it was going to save me all this money. But all I did was put a bunch of money on this card, and then I completely forgot about it. And by now, it's probably all expired. You know how they get you that way too. They make you put money on the card, but then you have to spend it in 1 month, or they just take it away from you. I'll bet the card is completely empty by now. They'll have taken all the money back. Anyway, I thought that was really funny that they talked me into getting the card, and then I never used it, and I completely forgot about it until I got to Vietnam. But we'll see. I'll give it a try at some point. So that is it, I think. I'm going to shut down this Planet Doug behind the scenes video, which of course may not even be on the behind the scenes channel. I'm thinking about uploading it to Planet Doug, and maybe I'll make a playlist. So I'll call the video BTS and then the date or something. But maybe in the future I won't have separate. I'll have Planet Doug, and then I have my travel vlogs, behind the scene vlogs, and live streams all in the same place. Does that make any sense at all? I don't know. We'll see how this goes. All right, that's it. I'm shutting down. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, then you truly are a member of the Crunch Club. Put CC in the comments to let me know you are in the Crunch Club. You made it to the very end. All right, that's it. Shutting down. And I'll see you next time.